Such a pleasure to meet you, Andrea. You're
It's lovely to meet
absolutely
you.
fabulous in this film. You play Audrey Withers, who was the editor of British Vogue during World War II. I mean, what a brilliant, determined woman. Like, she's amazing.
She was.
I loved the scene when she kind of like comes out of the rubble of Vogue house after it's been bombed, and she kind of has this amazing attitude of like, we'll move to the basement and things will go on. What did you learn kind of about approaching life from playing her?
I learnt so much. I learnt so much from Audrey. I wish I could have met her. I listened to her a lot, but I wish I could have actually met her. She wrote a lot about her own life and about Lee, which was brilliant. And Lee and her wrote to each other a lot. So I had it was just wonderful, endless research, really. I could have carried on. I felt almost like when we filmed, I wanted to then find out what happened after that period. And I was moving into that already. But she had an extraordinary life. She was a staunch socialist, an aspiring writer, a huge lover of literature, and she absolutely loved books and writing, as did both of her parents. And the real opportunity for women at that time was somewhere like Vogue. So to be able to write at all, anything really of substance, working at Vogue was an extraordinary opportunity for a young woman. Mm. So a lot of aspiring writers who were women ended up treading that path. Mm. Audrey was very, in a wonderful way, austere and had a great respect for fashion, but it wasn't what was really driving her, I think. And I think that's why she was really drawn to somebody like Lee Miller, who she saw as a talent that she wanted in every way to give a platform to any way that she could. And Lee was so tenacious and brave and inspiringly bold. And Audrey was very, in the most lovely way, put together, organised, can-do. She probably would have fitted quite well in Daisy Pulls It Off, as a cast member. She was maybe the definition of stiff upper lip Britishness, but extraordinary in the sense that she was in a very conservative world at the time, and that she had very liberal ideals. Mm. And one of those was to help Lee Miller get a war pass, and giving voice to Lee's work became one of Audrey's great passions, and she did that in many ways, not just with Lee's photojournalism but also with her writing, which was extraordinary.
And I think it's so interesting, she obviously was using Vogue and putting kind of messaging out about the war. It was almost used as like a war effort with advice and information, which was quite cool, but also led to the ministry being able to say, actually, we won't publish Lee Miller's pictures from the concentration camps because it would be too shocking. And I was just kind of thinking that if that happened now with like social media, people could just post it up, and I'd be curious to know your thoughts. Like, do you think that that's a good thing that we just have access to all that now?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Audrey, I'll speak about how that was at the time for Audrey. I don't think she ever got over the guilt or the heartbreak of not having been able to give Lee a huge space in UK Vogue for all of the many pictures that she took, particularly of Dachau. And she lived with that regret until she died. She did then support attempting to have them published in American Vogue, and they were. But the ministry in the UK were very sure that everybody needed to move on, and so in some way her hands were tied. I mean, they were tied, but she felt it was her responsibility that they didn't get printed. And they remained great friends throughout their lives. They were really great friends, Audrey and Lee, but it's, I think, one of the most interesting things about this film is that we often see war on the front line immortalised in film or recreated. And war has so many horrendous facets and involves huge amounts of courage and strength from a vast range of people. And in this film we see really the fallout of war, and very little of the combat. And so in that we see a lot of women. We see a lot of people observing different sorts of religions. It's almost like it represents everything else that happens around the combat, in a sense, and the way that Ellen has really wonderfully preserved Lee's perspective in the piece means that I think as an audience member it's completely subjective. You know, you see what her and Andy Samberg's character, Kate's character and Andy Samberg's character, what their characters saw in real life, which as humans, none of us see the whole picture.